Tomorrow, Channel Africa Radio will be breaking new ground with the much anticipated launch of the station's first ever Africa Matters Summit. We've been counting down the days to this day. It's finally here. So, the summit taking place in Johannesburg, South Africa, will bring together thought leaders, researchers, among others, to try and navigate the issues around climate change. The theme of the summit will be financing Africa's recovery. We're joined now on the line by our colleague, Tsepiso Makwetla, who will be spearheading or facilitating panel 3. And panel 3 will be looking at from dialogue to delivery, what must change now? That's the question that needs to be unpacked and answered somehow. We welcome you, Tsepiso. Good morning, colleague. How are you?
Good morning, colleague. I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good, thank you. And I'm sure you're ready to take this on tomorrow. But let's talk about what you feel about, or what are your thoughts around the Africa Matters Summit generally, as we've been speaking about it on the channel and counting down to tomorrow.
I'm excited and I'm glad that Channel Africa is doing it because it asks pertinent questions. It has clear resolutions on what we're looking from the summit. The core question is how Africa mobilizes, structures, and deploys climate finance at scale, both equitably and sustainably. And let us be honest about it, the scale of impact. I mean, climate change is already costing Africa between 7 and 15% of GDP annually. That directly threatens the ambitions of Agenda 2063. I mean, a lot of what Africa is working towards hinges on Agenda 2063. The transition is already underway. The only question before us is whether Africa shapes that transition or is shaped by it. So, as Channel Africa, we're taking up the cudgels by spearheading the conversation through this inaugural Africa Matters Summit to help answer that question. I mean, across the continent, we are witnessing a decisive shift from what is termed soft law declarations to hard law enforcement. Research from Wits University, our own partners for this inaugural Africa Matters Summit, already shows that climate resilience is fast becoming a legal prerequisite for the investment. So I'm just saying there is an action plan underway. The African Union's climate change and resilient development strategy gives us a common African position. We are at the forefront of what is going to shape that future. Climate commitments cannot live in environment ministries alone. You know, the silo mentality that not just governments, but those who interact with governments tend to have. We must understand that commitments must shape industrial policy, trade frameworks, and mineral beneficiation strategies, for instance. Climate policy is now economic policy. The African Development Bank is also warning against policy decoupling. So everything has to work together for the greater good of the African people. The task is formidable, but it's not insurmountable. So that's exciting, that challenge that we're taking on.
Speaking of excitement, how are you feeling about you being part of this and your participation from your perspective?
You know, Asanda, I was excited not only at the thought, but, glad to be asked to be a part of it because it's something I'm very passionate about, not only issues of sustainability, but as an SDG goalkeeper and activist. My focus is in particular SDG 3.2. So I'm part of a community of people who advocate for all SDGs. And as you can see, all of these goals are interconnected. If we talk about the right to life, health, food and water, and the rights of future generations, which is interestingly something that the International Court of Justice made history of last year by declaring as the legal obligations of governments on climate change. So the right to life, health, food and water, and the rights of future generations are the same legal protections accorded to women, children, and adolescents under international law. So I'm just saying there is resonance in all of these SDGs. So it excites me to be part of a conversation that is holistic in its approach on climate crisis, a discussion that focuses on empowerment rather than the begging bowl so often imposed on brand Africa. So it's important to show that climate protection now enjoys the normative legal status of human rights. Therefore, climate justice is not optional. It's a lived reality for you and I, whether we know it or not.
Right, tell us about your panel then. It's titled "From Dialogue to Delivery: What Must Change Now?" Question mark. We'll be part of that panel, and what does this mean for you in terms of what it will take for us to take things from dialogue to delivery, and this doesn't end as just a talk shop.
Mm. And Asanda, the beauty about it is that this has been well thought out. As you know, Peter will be looking at the regulatory framework. Um, Tammy will be looking at the financial mechanisms. So, panel three really moves from solutions and actionable recommendations, as you say, from dialogue to delivery. What must change now? The goal of this panel, at least I hope and I intend, is to make sure that it's productive friction. So it's not just talk shop to drone on and on about, oh, this is what we can do. We're saying 2026 must be the year we move from aspiration to execution. As you heard from our business manager, Dixie Ngula, saying yesterday, the Wits University will record the conversation. And it's not just for posterity that it happened today or that will be tomorrow. But it's really to keep us honest to say these were solutions that were proffered, commitments that were made thereafter. Here are the timelines so far, etc. The mission is to promote regeneration, revival, and the rejuvenation of Africa while reflecting the continent's socio-economic, cultural, and political realities from an African perspective. So, as we stand in 2026, the narrative of Africa and climate change has fundamentally shifted. We're demonstrating that Africa must not be a blank slate for offset projects serving external emitters. We are no longer just a vulnerable continent waiting for rescue. We are at the frontier of the climate innovation and the laboratory for the world's just transition. So, as you've mentioned, we'll be engaging with policymakers and regulators, DFIs, private commercial banks and institutional investors, academia, research institutions, etc. All of these development partners, business partners, are going to be with us. And most importantly, let's not forget civil society organizations. They will underscore that the African perspective is a plurality of voices and opinions.
What are you looking most forward to when it comes to the takeaways for the audience, or what would you like the audience to take away from this?
I think, as I've just mentioned, that it's important to foster cross sector collaboration, whether it's within social, political, economic networks. Collective reflection, planning, and decision making are the only way to fight for vulnerable communities facing unprecedented rising seas, frequent flooding, and unpredictable cyclones and hurricanes that are destroying lives. SADC, as we've been reporting over the past couple of weeks, has borne the brunt of what it means to experience climate change in the here and now in real time. Kenya at the moment experiencing these floods that have led to a death toll. I think it's inching up to 100 people. Nairobi, I don't think anybody would have thought. And this is it. This is climate change. So for me, it's about putting a human face to what sometimes is spoken about in a rather abstract manner. When we talk about climate change, people speak about it as something that's in the near future or that's happening to somebody else. Do you know, it impacts each and every one of us in one way or the other. The rapid urbanization is part of the reasons we're experiencing some of the challenges. Food insecurity is a real conversation, and it's not just because of war. It's about climate change.
Right, Tsepiso, thank you for chatting to us, and looking forward to tomorrow. I guess we're all excited for that.
Thank you, Asanda, and looking forward to it as well.
Great. Our colleague there, Tsepiso Makwetla, talking to us about the Africa Matters Summit. It's here finally. Mr. Pitandoro, are you going to tell us what your panel is about? Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, I will give you an update, but it's, as Tsepiso gave us a clue and hint there, it's the regulatory framework in terms of what are we putting in our own way? Have we got the right regulations, legal processes, that kind of thing in place? What needs to change so that we can create an enabling environment for this financing to come through?
Great. The first of its kind for Channel Africa. We're first with the African story, but we're also first with the summits that matter. All right, 8:30 Central African time.